Thanks for having me. I'm honoured to be here. I'm actually honoured to be here.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Victoryforu and welcome back to my channel. Today we're in a little bit of a different setup. I'm in my hallway, and if you have ever listened to the Oxfordshire Youth Podcast, this is where I sit to do all the podcast takes. But today we are doing something very, very cool. I am talking to a really close friend of mine over Zoom just to have a chat about the Black hidden figures of classical music, because this is something I wanted to do in Black History Month, but things happened. And we're now here to be able to do this. I'm super, super excited. The amazing friend that I will be speaking to, her name is Carla. She is just like such an amazing human being. Please do go and check her out. She's a student, she plays the viola, and she can sing. Sis got some pipes though. But yes, I'm super excited to be chatting to her in a very short while about so many different things to do with the music industry, but specifically classical music, and so many Black figures that I didn't even know had such an impact on all of the classical music and probably the modern day music that we all hear today. So yeah, let's get into it. So guys, I have like one of my favorite people ever. Her name is Carla. She is just, I'll just let her introduce herself and all the amazing things that she does. Carla, how are you?
Hi, Darius. It's so good. It's actually so good to just be talking to you again. It's been so long. I'm just here studying at uni. I'm just, trying to make the most of this lockdown. But now we're in Tier 2 in Liverpool, so trying to enjoy a bit of that. Trying to do all of that. So, yeah, but I'm okay for the most part. How are you?
Yeah, I'm alive.
Amen.
Yes, I'm happy. No, I'm just taking each day as it comes, but just being grateful for everything, really. So what are you studying up at Liverpool?
So I'm doing a Bachelor of Arts in Music and Psychology as a combined, so it's both 50-50. So that's what I'm doing, just a bit of the creative side, a bit of the research side. And we get Carla.
Okay, so not only is she creative, she's intelligent as well. God is good. So what made you want to get into, both sides of it? Because obviously, like, I've known you for a good while now, and I know music's your thing. Like, girl got some pipes. Sis got some pipes. And she can, do a cute thing on her viola. Like, honestly, I've seen some people be trying to be like, oh yeah, I can do a little tick. No. Carla up in here, mashing up a viola. Like, the skill level is just unparalleled. So like, what made you want to get into the psychological side of it as well?
Well, before I got to uni, I was thinking about what subjects I would like to do, and I knew that I wanted to do music, but I also knew I didn't want to necessarily have that as a full-time career for me. I knew that I wanted to do more research stuff, things in school, things in like prisons or hospices, and helping out people through things like music therapy. So I looked more into that and came across studying music and psychology as an option, so that I could kind of enter that career later on in life, but still have the best of both.
That sounds really interesting to me, because like I love the idea of studying psychology. I don't love the practice of it, because to me that's just it blows my mind. But it fascinates me, like how you can play a piece of music and it can really deeply affect someone. And I think it's beautiful, but then it's also to know the power that music has. So if you're putting bad things into music and you're playing it to a bunch of young people, bad things could potentially happen, because that's what they're being influenced to do through the music. So it's about putting out positivity out into the world.
Of course, yeah.
I have you here today to talk about lots of different things. Obviously this year specifically has been, I'd say it's been a big moment for modern day race relations, with everything that's been happening. Like, Obviously, you guys are going to see part of this on Collective Conversations, but all of the extra bits is going to be fully on there. So go and check it out. And as you know, over on Collective Conversations, we love talking about social issues, different things within social action, and lots of what we've been talking about has been to do with anti-racism. And I wanted to get you on today to unpack and unpick classical music, because until we had a conversation, I wasn't even aware that there were Black people in classical music. And the fact that so many people don't know this is kind of crazy, because you automatically think, if you think of, classical music, you think of, Bach and Beethoven? Beethoven? Who's Beethoven? Beethoven, cool. Bach and Beethoven, like, you think of those kinds of people. You don't think of, Black people in those spaces, but they were very much there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's something that growing up, when I was learning to play the violin originally, and then I started playing the viola, that I would grow up in these spaces, learning different types of music, different genres. But whenever it came to classical music, it would always be the kind of stereotypical, or like the canon, as they call it in classical music. People like your Bachs, your Beethovens, your Mozarts. And that was kind of all I ever knew until I got to university. And it kind of got me thinking, especially this year, that actually what else is out there in terms of classical music, and who else is out there, or who else has gone before, like this generation, and actually composed these kind of amazing works that the world just hasn't really, accepted or even acknowledged anyway to this day.
So have there been people that, obviously, we know full well that there have been many Black people, various people of colour throughout history who've been just overlooked. And even within the music industry, there have been times where there'll be a Black female singer who actually sings a song, but to make it more palatable for the general public, they'll put a white singer, or just actually not even a white singer, just a white woman pretending to mime the song to make it more palatable. Has there been like things like that have happened within the classical music industry, like in the past?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I agree with what you're saying about Black voices or Black music being, I guess, made to be more watered down, or to not even watered down, but sometimes just being, the only way it can basically be accepted is through making it seem or be heard in a certain way by a certain group of people. And what I've learned as well, that it's not necessarily that their works were any less than, or they weren't as good, which was kind of like a stereotype again as well, which I've come across doing my research. But the fact that they've been overlooked because of a lot more more issues to do with race and class and culture of the time. And I can say that a lot of classical music is built on German tradition. It's built on a lot of Eastern European, Western European kind of traditions, and that's been the canon for so long, and everything else has been a bit too much for people to handle, I guess. So the people that I've started to look at, so people like Florence Price, for example, she's a good example of a Black female composer. So she's an African American, and she's someone who composed such amazing group of works, so many symphonies that I'd never even heard of or been taught about throughout my whole musical education, which is crazy to me, because they were just as good, but they weren't necessarily portraying the same message as the normal white male composers would be. And for some reason in the Western classical tradition, that was seen as something that was too unusual to be accepted by the wider audience.
That's interesting, but then also thinking about it now, it's sad because so much of that kind of ideas hasn't really changed that much, because it's you will see, for example, Black women in positions of power, and there'll be lots of people who'll be like, well, she's a bit too loud, or she's a bit too this, or she's a bit too that, and it's well, no, she's just herself, and she's standing up for what she believes in, or fighting for the rights of not only her people but everyone. And I feel like it's often those voices that are made to be silenced, which I think is wrong. And I think this is why it's so important to be having conversations like this, because firstly, I've learned so much. And I think it's like, people watching this, I hope it's like really is a learning curve that classical music itself is not just white. It's really not. And also I want to put in there, it's not just black either. Like, I'm sure there are loads of other races involved in, you know, the creation of classical music as we know it today. And I think with us not knowing that, not that it's anything to do with, it's not our fault that we don't know, we just weren't taught it, but the fact that we weren't, you only see something in a certain way. It's like with history, for a long time, I genuinely thought that black history started with slavery. I didn't even realise there was stuff before then. And then obviously I was educated and, you know, found out more things. But if you're not taught those kind of things, you can't like grasp it. And I think that is quite difficult. Like, what has been like the most empowering thing for you whilst looking at all of these amazing black composers?
I guess it's knowing that there are people that have kind of composed and written music and played classical music before me and are still doing it in the 21st century, which it inspires me to actually go after, you know, more in my life and actually not just settle for just being another black female artist in 2020. Or like, there's nothing obviously wrong with any genres of music, like all of them are so brilliant, so amazing in their own way. It's just something that I've realised, that I've just come to this realisation that there's just not many people that look like me, you know, conducting orchestras, or they're writing musical works for like the BBC proms, or it's only something that's recently come up. And it's just, yeah, like I said, it's been so inspiring to see people who look like me just in those spaces and occupying those spaces and just being influential. Even, not even talking about like African American history, but even in the UK, there's so much rich black history in terms of classical music. Like, there's Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, he's like someone who's only recently really been acknowledged for his music, and actually people have started to realise that his musical potential was so far behind, like beyond his years. And it's just like, instead of comparing people to each other, it's kind of just understanding that music is a multicultural and diverse just like part of people's lives. It's not, like you said, it's not as easy as it being black and white, but there are Asian American composers I've come across and people from so many different ethnicities and nationalities writing music, not just what we're taught. And I just think what I've just learned is that a lot of people are kind of scared to step out of what they know because maybe it's never going to be as good. But I think it's just something that we just have to keep researching and keep, you know, educating ourselves about.
If you do want to, go and check out more on Collective Conversations. There'll be more from this discussion that you haven't already seen. So go on, people, go and check it out. Like, what are you doing? Like, firstly, why are you already here? Like, come, like, just click off the video. Click off the video. It's done. Literally, the video done now. The video done. It's finished. Go click on the thing. Go click on the thing. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Carla, thank you for being here. I'm in my mind. That's my hope. That's okay. Anytime. Well, I'm Victoryforu. Hope that you'll be victorious every day. God bless. Bye-bye. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye.